Most killers, when finally caught, show some flicker of guilt, a moment of hesitation, some trace of the humanity they tried to bury. And then there are the ones who show nothing at all. No fear, no regret, not even when facing their own execution. These are the coldest killers in recorded history, people whose complete absence of remorse disturbed even the investigators who had seen everything. Stay with me, because what separates these individuals from every other criminal on record is not what they did, but how little it seemed to matter to them. Psychologists who study extreme criminal behavior often describe a specific and rare profile. Individuals who appear to feel no genuine empathy for other human beings at all. Not diminished empathy, not suppressed empathy. An almost complete absence of it, present from a very young age, long before any crime is ever committed. For most of these individuals, the outside world never notices anything unusual. They function normally, they hold jobs, they form relationships, even families. The coldness lives entirely beneath the surface, invisible until the moment it finally reveals itself. And by then, it is often far too late. We begin in Wisconsin with a case that shocked investigators not just because of what was discovered, but because of how calmly its perpetrator discussed it once caught. Jeffrey Dahmer killed at least 17 young men between 1978 and 1991, luring victims to his apartment with promises of money or companionship. What disturbed detectives most, once he was finally apprehended, was not simply the scale of what he had done, but the flat, almost clinical way he described it. He spoke about his victims the way someone might describe a technical problem they had solved, with careful detail and complete absence of visible emotion. During his trial, forensic psychiatrists who examined him repeatedly noted the same disturbing observation. He understood intellectually that what he had done was wrong. He simply did not feel it was wrong, a distinction that separates ordinary criminal behavior from something far rarer and far more unsettling. He was ultimately convicted and sentenced to multiple consecutive life terms. In 1994, he was killed by a fellow inmate while serving his sentence. From Wisconsin, we traveled to Florida for the case of a woman whose crimes and demeanor challenged everything investigators believed about who was capable of this particular kind of coldness. Aileen Wuornos killed 7 men along Florida highways between 1989 and 1990, working as a sex worker who targeted her clients as victims. What made her case extraordinary to criminologists was not simply that a woman had committed this pattern of killing, statistically rare in itself, but her behavior during interrogation and trial. She would shift between expressions of remorse and sudden chilling outbursts of anger directed at the courtroom itself, seemingly unable or unwilling to maintain any consistent emotional register regarding what she had done. In one widely documented courtroom outburst, she shouted at the jury that she wished a hurricane would destroy the entire state. She was executed by lethal injection in 2002. Having spent her final years giving interviews in which her account of events and her apparent emotional relationship to her own crimes continued shifting in ways that left even experienced criminal psychologists divided on what, if anything, she genuinely felt about what she had done. We move now to Russia for the case of a man whose complete lack of visible reaction unsettled even the most experienced Soviet-era investigators. Andrei Chikatilo murdered at least 52 people, primarily children and young women, across the Soviet Union between 1978 and 1990, evading capture for over a decade, despite an investigation that eventually involved thousands of police officers. When finally arrested and confronted with overwhelming evidence, Chikatilo confessed in extraordinary detail, walking investigators through each killing with a precision and calm that reportedly caused several seasoned detectives to require psychological counseling afterward, unable to process the complete emotional flatness with which a man described murdering dozens of children. During his trial, held inside a specially constructed steel cage, due to the extreme public anger the case had generated, Chikatilo displayed erratic behavior, at times appearing confused or distracted, at other times responding to accusations with what witnesses described as an almost bureaucratic matter-of-factness, as though discussing administrative paperwork rather than the murders of over 50 human beings. He was executed by a single gunshot to the back of the head in 1994. From Russia, we traveled to Colombia for the case of a man whose total absence of remorse extended even to counting, with apparent pride, the exact number of his victims. Luis Garavito confessed to murdering at least 138 children across Colombia and Ecuador during the 1990s, though investigators believe the true number may exceed 300, making him among the most prolific killers in recorded history. When finally caught, Garavito cooperated extensively with investigators, walking them to burial sites across the countryside with what officials described as an eagerness that seemed almost administrative, as though he viewed the process as an opportunity to finally receive recognition for what he had accomplished. Colombian law limited his maximum possible sentence regardless of the number of confirmed victims, and Garavito reportedly expressed no apparent distress about this fact, nor any visible emotional reaction upon learning it. Psychological evaluations conducted during his trial repeatedly noted an almost complete absence of what evaluators would normally expect to observe, even in other violent offenders, some baseline emotional response to the scale of what he had done. Finally, we travel to Texas for the case of a killer whose emotional flatness extended even to his own final moments. Ted Bundy confessed to 30 confirmed murders across multiple American states during the 1970s, though the true number is widely believed to be significantly higher. What set Bundy apart from many other killers of his era was his apparent normalcy. Intelligent, articulate, capable of maintaining relationships and even legal representation of himself during portions of his trial with genuine skill. This surface normalcy made his complete absence of remorse all the more disturbing to those who interacted with him closely. In his final interview, conducted the day before his execution in 1989, Bundy spoke about his crimes with the same measured, articulate tone he had used throughout his life, showing no apparent distress about his impending death, and expressing what many observers described as more interest in analyzing his own psychology for the benefit of researchers than any genuine remorse for the lives he had taken. What connects Dahmer, Wuornos, Chikatilo, Garavito, and Bundy is not simply the scale of their crimes, but a specific and deeply unsettling absence that ran through every one of their cases. Investigators, psychiatrists, and courtroom observers who encountered them repeatedly described the same disorienting experience, searching for some flicker of the guilt or horror that ordinary human psychology would predict, and finding instead only calm, only distance, only a kind of emotional silence where remorse should have been. Understanding this coldness does not make these individuals more comprehensible. If anything, it makes them more disturbing, a reminder that the capacity for genuine human empathy, something most people never think to question in themselves, cannot be assumed to exist universally, and that its complete absence can hide behind an entirely ordinary face for years, sometimes for an entire lifetime, before anyone ever discovers what was missing all along. Subscribe to VaultX Mysteries, because the vault goes deeper than you think, and we are just getting started.